now the executives, including Jordan, are reviewing the panel show, and Shelby has come up short with her antics, honey. The black people love the concept, but they hate Shelby. The white audience is offended and confused by Shelby. So, I believe I've said before that Shelby kind of figured out how to make the most of her stereotype as a light-skinned black woman. And I think in this particular setting, she is seeing where it doesn't quite work. Gonna have to be some changes made. And I think Jordan ends up having some realizations through this particular experience as well. So I definitely would say that it's a major lesson and display in, one, it's a time and a place for everything, and two, the need to adapt. It's like that quote, if you do not adapt or if you do not evolve, you will become extinct. And I feel like that applies so heavily for Shelby in particular here, especially because she is a housewife. She's a reality TV star. So, for a lot of reality TV stars that we've seen, specifically with Love and Hip Hop cast members who were fan favorites, the most loved, hated villain like Jocelyn Hernandez or similar to on Housewives with your Nenes and Portias and things of that nature, they get so big to a point where it's as if they've outgrown the pun one way or another. Now, granted, some of the examples that I gave, they got big-headed and started tearing up the pun. But in some cases, you get so big, you outgrow the pun. And I think in Shelby's case, she got so successful in the reality TV sector that she had to find a new pun. Especially when you accompany that with the fact that I believe Shelby's housewife reputation is something similar to how we would view Tiffany Pollard, New York. So, a lot of people love New York, especially now, but back then, it was split down the middle. You had people that love New York because of her audacity, and you had people that hated her for the same exact reason, but everybody loved to watch her just to see what would happen, what she gonna say, who she gonna fight with, right? And so, before I get to that point, and so with that being said, when New York was making her transition and her evolution, Nene, Portia, making their transitions and evolutions, you have a lot of people hoping that they fall flat on their ass in order to learn whatever lesson that people feel like they need to learn. So that's definitely the position that Shelby is in. Also on top of the fact that, she got married to Quentin in the midst, and that kind of throws a wrench in people's hopes of her falling flat on her ass as well, because she does have Quentin to fall back on if something happens. But Shelby likes to feel purposeful regardless. She likes to have that safety net, but she likes to serve a purpose. She has that need to serve a purpose. So she can't just do that. You know what I'm saying? She got to have something to do. She has to find the next big thing. And, her and Jordan put this together on the spur of the moment. And Jordan kind of based it off of Shelby's followers. So, how much attention and viewership quantity, i.e. money, also, that she'll generate. But here's where things throw you for a wrench, because a lot of people think that followers and a person's influence in one particular sector will automatically translate into other sectors, and that is not the case. If Shelby had started a YouTube, Maybe it would have been different. If Shelby was on a podcast, Dish Nation or something of the sort, probably would have been different. But she's on this show that is more of a sister circle type show. It's more of a The View for a all black woman panel type show. You know what I'm saying? So there's something more regal that has to go on over here, and people are not showing up to just see Shelby fight or just see her cut a fool. So this is where the light skin privilege of being able to be gratified and awarded and all of that for acting a clown doesn't translate. Because over here, you are, but you're not just a light-skinned black woman. You are a black woman, and people are expecting more of you in this particular sector for this particular sector of black women. So yeah, perpetuating the stereotype and stigmas and capitalizing off of the bias of people is more profitable in reality TV. Not so much on a serious, a more serious noted panel show. Especially when it concerns black women and it is spearheaded by and for black women who are already underrepresented. You feel me? And let me expand that. A lot of black women as a collective have made a lot of strides and have a lot more power and opportunity than we have in the past. However, when it comes to TV shows, panel shows, even reality shows, it's not a wide variety of the different types of black women authentically. And speaking of authentically, and I'll get deeper into that when we get to how this particular situation turns out, but the caricature that Shelby has blown up for herself in reality TV and capitalized off of, it's a part of her, it's in her, but that's not the real her. Moving on. Alright, now Harper got a meeting with his agent again. He got another offer to do another book on the Bumper G, whatnot, but Harper is over it, child, and we've already heard him express this. And so we get indication here of just how pushy his agent is, and that explains a lot why he be feeling so tugged and pulled. But Harper, boy, you gotta get it together. I already said this, but I feel like he needs to go ahead and get that bag right quick, right fast, and just gradually work on his other projects in the process. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think his agent is, you know what I'm saying, lying or no shit when he say that particular deal could set him up for generational wealth. I'm not mad at Harper for wanting to try his hand at doing what he wants to do and being successful at it. I just think with everything involved, he should do what I said. But anywho, this scene ain't really have too much going on with it. Just more of us getting indication of how pushy Harper's agent is. So getting to see more of Harper's internal and external tug of war that he be having going on. So we see a lot of things progressing greatly with Jordan in two different ways. Progressing greatly with her career, and she got some flaws in there too, but seems like she got a health issue that is progressing as well. And no matter how much we see her trying to relax, it seems like the relaxation process is stressing her out in some way, shape, or another, honey. Your girl is going through it, but when people come around, she snapped straight up. But in this scene in particular, she wasn't able to snap up so fast. So it's giving Jordan. What's wrong, girl? Gonna have to go to the ER. Call a doctor. She gonna need a nurse. Baby. You're gonna have to take care of yourself. So, Lil Lance and Nicole are standing over her like, is she good? Is she dead? What's happening? You know what I'm saying? Showing magnificent concern, which is exactly what Jordan needs. But she don't know how to take it. So, she tells Nicole, everything's fine. Just take Lil Lance down to the meeting and show him how I like my notes done. Okay. So she also makes a note to tell him that he don't have to show up to work with his school uniform on. He don't have to, do the most. He can dress however he wants to dress. And I think a part of that is her getting him to express himself and show who and how he really is, so that she can gain a better understanding of how and where to guide him in that particular field, in the industry, and whatever it is that he's claiming he wants to do and he wants to be successful at, and how he wants to represent himself and what he wants to lead with in his career in this particular field. But we in for more than we bargained for after that whole implication, because you probably couldn't see the look on his face the way I got the picture on here, but the look on his face, baby, he was elated. Like, why she say that? Like, that was the magic word. And y'all, I know a lot of people have probably already seen the show in its entirety, the whole season in its entirety at this point. So please don't be alarmed or offended that I'm using the male pronouns for Lil Lance, or also that I'm calling him Lil Lance. Once that turning point happens, I will refer and speak on it accordingly. But I'm referring to them a particular way for where we are in the show, because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. The ADHD be ADHDing, and I'll be in this episode talking about stuff from a season that ain't even created yet. So just understand my thought process. I'm not deliberately misgendering. I am just staying in the present time frame with the characters as it concerns the world of the show. So yeah. Moving on. Jordan gets her a good old text from Harper as she lifts herself up. He wanna do a little lunch meeting with your girl. So they link and they commiserate and vent about their work woes and whatnot. Jordan got to figure out what she's going to do with Shelby concerning the show. And Harper is trying to figure out what he want to do with all these books and movies and all that. So he's encouraging her and letting her know whatever her next move is going to be the right one, because she's Jordan and she's that girl. And that's how she always been, and that's how she always gonna be. She figures it the out. She weathers the storms and always comes out on top. Okay? So she receives that with a smile that only Jordan can give Harper. So she asks him what's up with him, I guess in order to return the favor. And he says the do about the book deal and, still talking about his aspirations. And like I said, it's a whole internal and external tug of war that he got going on between Robin and his agent and himself, and whether he wants to cater to other people's thoughts and opinions and such. And I feel like it's a bit of a tug of war as it concerns Jordan also, between Robin and Jordan, because he has a different level of emotional bond and connection and respect too for Jordan. And I, for one, think that has a lot to do with the fact that Jordan holds him accountable. People don't understand that accountability is a love language. It is a act and display of love. If you are not holding someone accountable, you cannot authentically say that you genuinely love them. And whether people have that understanding mindfully or not, people subconsciously, like how folks will say, them folks know who to do that with. That comes from certain people holding them accountable. It's an act of respect as well. And people will mindlessly give you the respect that is due from you respecting them and caring enough about them and their progress as human beings to hold them accountable. So like I said, it's subconscious, but it's very much so a spiritual thing. And I like how they are showing that here as well. Because y'all know I've constantly said that Harper shows a better sense of value with his friends, specifically with his relationship with Jordan and Lance, than he does his own wife. And when I evaluated the whole situation, I came to the conclusion that it's because his wife doesn't hold him accountable. She doesn't actively hold him accountable, and she does not communicate. She doesn't hold herself accountable for her own feelings. So there's a lack of love and a lack of respect there as it concerns action and the actual transfer of energy. They can't mutually exchange what neither one of them is giving. Your subconscious and your spirit knows that, whether you're willing to admit it or not. You'll mindlessly act on it. Just like, instead of Harper sitting down in this manner with Robin, he's doing it with Jordan. And he goes on to say that Robin, wants to make sure that he's not doing it from a place of ego. And here's where I want to also expand and clarify something as it concerns what I mean about Robin not holding him accountable. Robin will often say a lot and not act on it. Like I said, she refuses to hold herself accountable at times for her own emotions. And what I mean by that is, you go back to the first movie where he essentially cheated on her with Jordan. And all he had to do was sob and ask her to marry him, and everything was fixed. And he didn't even ask her to marry him until after, he did the whole sobbing thing, and she was like, okay, I'll still go, and da 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 da. Like, she just goes along to get along. So she'll say a whole lot, but she doesn't stick to it. So it's like your words went out the window. Your words don't mean anything. And that translates energetically and subconsciously, even if it doesn't mindlessly. So how is Harper supposed to know when to take you serious if you clearly don't even take your own self serious? Because you just let him run all over you. You say a whole lot, but then you just let him drag you along every which way. And it's specific things like that that make me feel like her saying things to him like, is he coming from a place of ego? And how, she says things that are truthful about him, but it comes off like projection to me because she doesn't acknowledge how she herself is superficial. And I'll get deeper into that as we go along. So Jordan tells him that if he really feels like he's being called to do this thing that he feels so passionate about, then he needs to go ahead and do that, because no one thinks like he does. And with that statement, he was bucked up. But with that statement, I feel like she was saying to him, don't be so reliant on getting validation from everybody else, because it's going to be certain things that only you can see. Because no one thinks like you. Nobody does what you do like you. So it's gonna be certain moments where it feels like everybody is against you and everybody is telling you not to do what you're being called to do, and it's for you to make the decision for yourself and give yourself the permission. And that's a leap of faith. Act on faith and be guided and led and caught and caressed and blessed by God. And that definitely leaves him with a great smile on his face. But the same type of smile that LJ had on his face when she told him he could wear whatever he wanted. This the same type of elation that Harper has on his face in this moment. And I think that that's so, like, it's something adorable about it, but it's also something sad about it in this particular sense, because a lot of people are like this, where they can bring clarity and happiness and peace and gratification to everybody else's life, but can't seem to establish it for themselves. And that's exactly where Jordan is right now. So Jordan breaks the news to Shelby and lets her know, child, I gotta make some adjustments, honey. And she lets them know that they want to fire her, but she ain't gonna fire her. She's going to help her adjust. Less housewives, more college debate team Shelby. Shelby don't have faith in the intellectual side of herself, and I can see why, because we were introduced to her in the first movie. That's something that they were annoyed with her about. And it's not even necessarily that, well, I can't necessarily say that, because misogynist society does beat up on women for being intelligent. So there's that. And then on top of that, Shelby herself is arrogant. She has an arrogant, snobby air about her. And on top of that, she's light-skinned, and a lot of people already automatically assume that light-skinned people are arrogant, snobby, and, you know, not so much of a pleasure to be around. So Shelby has internalized all of that. And her seeing, it's very humbling, I would say. And you can see it. It's very humbling, because she finally figured out how to make her stereotypes and the caricature that she created work for her, and now it's not working. So it's been working all this time. It's like a internal cultural shock, a cognitive dissonance, if you will. Like, dang, what now? And then the answer to the what now is that you got to tap into that part of yourself that you feel like is undesirable. Speaking of the term undesirable specifically, that's where the pitfalls of becoming reliant on the privilege comes in. Because people get so used to being gratified and validated by the privilege that they start to feel entitled to not be subjected to certain feelings or certain quote-unquote boxes. So that adds layers to how humbling this experience must be for Shelby. Because if she's gotten to a point where she feels entitled to not feel or be labeled as undesirable, yet what she's done to avoid that labeling has made her undesirable, and now she has to tap into her undesirable space in order to make herself desirable. There's the cognitive dissonance and the declaration, that's the word, and the declaration of Shelby's internal war. So Harper gets home looking for Robin and the kid, and to no avail, but he gets a phone call, and Robin has been arrested during a protest. Child, this is a scene where I am reminded and taught even more of how great of a facially emoting actor Taye Diggs is. It's similar to Tommy Davidson, but I feel like Taye Diggs is even better with the way he emotes his face to show what he's feeling and thinking. Like, cause seeing him go through the emotions of excitement and cheerful wonder that he has on his face when he first gets home, and kind of sort of when he first gets on the phone, and it quickly yet appropriately transitions to like, what? Huh? Wait, what is going on? Wait, why you talking like that? Why you saying, oh, she's okay? Well, why wouldn't she be okay? What is going on? And then also looking at his body language. He originally was holding the phone with one hand, and it transitioned to him placing his other hand over the hand that's holding the phone, and that particular body language indicates him self-soothing, physically self-soothing, to holding his own hand. The little bodily quirks that human beings do to physically emote, child, body language. And Taye Diggs is real good about that. Like in this particular franchise and other movies I've seen, like he hugs himself. He does a lot of like self-affectionate body language specifically, and that's why I feel like, you know, he's naturally a great actor. He's always been a great actor, and all the while it's still refreshing and beautiful to see him be so seasoned at this point and still showing growth, because this is definitely some of his best acting in this series. Like, for real, your guy is showing range, honey, range. So he gets on down to the police station. Mia is definitely traumatized and in her own childlike way trying to make sense of why the cops, who are supposed to be protecting everybody, were being harmful to people who were not breaking the law, including her mama. So they let Robin on up out of there. She comes out immediately, greets Mia, and consoles her. You can tell that Harper is very uncomfortable. And I also want to point out, with that being said, that in the scene, wherever Harper steps, there is constantly a cop lingering around behind him or alongside of him, and that could give a lot of implications, but I'm gonna get deeper into what that's given when they get back to the house, child. So, you know, they had this pleasantry, and Harper is looking around, definitely uncomfortable, definitely hyper vigilant in the moment, as he should be, honestly, in this particular situation. And he is like hustling them off to like, come on, let's go ahead and get up out of this area. And also, I'm sure a part of it is because he doesn't want that type of publicity surrounding his name at the time, because he is a well-known best-selling author. Not to mention, I feel like Robin thinks that it's more about that when they get to the house. So as they get home, put Mia to bed, all this, that, and the third, Harper feels the need to come in and put his foot down, child, and let her know that she don't need to have his little girl out there doing all this and that. When she saw the cops, they should have been gone right then and there. I ain't gonna lie, I feel Harper. And then I also understand what Robin was saying when she was like, or, you know, I'm also showing her how to stand up for herself. And I feel like Robin is justifying such drastic measures in this case because she knows how in everyday life she's showing Mia how to be walked all over. So it's like she's trying to balance the scales in her own way. And Harper is in ways like hearing it, but he ain't hearing it, because he's coming from the position of being a father first and also being a black man, honestly. And I don't think Robin, like, I don't want to beat up on her for what it is that she's trying to do, because it's definitely a bigger picture. But at the same time, you put your child and your husband in harm's way because you are having some type of identity crisis. And that's the thing about her. Like, as selfless as being an activist is. Like, to be an activist, you definitely have to be selfless. You have to be willing to get hurt. You have to be willing to die at certain rates, you know? But also, while I feel like Robin is doing a real good job at making it seem like it's just about saving the world and all of that, Robin is coming from a selfish place because, like I said, she's trying to compensate for some internal fulfillment that she feels like she lacks. And honestly, it's a lot to do with her being an enabler. She's been an enabler for so long that now she wants somebody to enable her foolishness. So she's not trying to hear anything that Harper is trying to say. She's trying to counter it all with the fact that she's trying to give Mia the example of knowing how to fight for herself, which I feel. I 100% feel, but at the same time, I 100% feel like she's using that as an excuse to rebel against Harper as well and to have a reason to oppose him, honestly, because his feelings are not unreasonable. Even though you mean well, you are putting his child in a detrimental, dangerous position. Anything could have happened. She could have been harmed. We have multiple examples that racist people, racist police officers do not care about your black child being a child. They do not see them as a child. They see them as black. And they see them as justified punching bags. So he recognizes that is also how they see them as a whole, as melanated black people. So his feelings are not unreasonable. And I feel like even though she means well and or claims to mean well, because I feel like multiple things can be true at once. I feel like she can mean well and also be coming from a selfish place all at the same time. But Harper's feelings are not crazy in this moment. And they finish off that scene with him putting his foot down about putting his child in danger and her putting her foot down about him not telling her what to do with her child. And I have mixed emotions because I feel like it is still possible for a woman to be married and be a single parent. However, I don't think that's entirely true for her. I do see and acknowledge that Harper works a lot. He is very self-oriented and she is reasonably longing for more time with him and more time for him to be with the kid. However, I feel like when he does have the time to spend, he spends it. And he's working for the money to provide and create not just wealth, but generational wealth to where Mia and her kids don't have to grind the way that he, Robin, and their parents have had to grind. And I can't be mad at him for that. I think it's just a part of the sacrifice when you know what you want. So, the whole my child, my child, my child thing, I don't feel like it applies here. I feel like it applies when the other parent is outright abusive. I feel like it applies when the other parent is outright absent. I don't feel like it applies when the other parent is just flawed and or reasonably occupied. Because she may feel like Harper is a clout chaser. Howsoever, while I do agree that Harper has clout chaser tendencies, generational wealth is the gold, and the goal in the society that we live in. So, to a degree, living here, and we'll pick up on that when we get to it, but living here in America, there's a certain amount of capitalism that you have to subscribe to and perpetuate. So, I can't say he's entirely wrong. And I feel like because Robin is a hypocrite, is only so much I can agree with her when it comes to things. But they wrap that up, essentially agreeing to disagree in a very passive-aggressive manner. And so we roll over with Shelby and Quentin. And Shelby is having a lot of insecurities about the changes that she's needing to make for the show, for the culture, from the culture, whichever. She's having some insecurities about the changes that she's having to make because it literally is make or break, do or die. She got to change her approach in her presentation or she gonna be X'd out. So this is causing her to have to lean into the characteristics of herself that were once disdained by the people that she was surrounded by, which led her into forming and embracing and leaning more into this persona of the Flavor of Love girl, the infamous reality show housewife type chick. So now what's been working for her is now working against her, and she's having to go into the old quote unquote habits or patterns that originally worked against her. And I totally understand this cognitive dissonance, juxtaposition, internal, external tug of war, identity issue that Shelby is having. Oh my gosh. I understand it. And it's kind of hard to explain, but I feel like I just explained it. What once didn't work for her, she went into something that she didn't really like, and that was working for her, and she learned to like it, and then that stopped working for her. Now she got to use what wasn't working for her originally and make it work for her. As crazy as it sounds in word form, it makes you feel even crazier. But it is moments like that where when you embrace it, it brings on this ultimate evolution that brings about so many great things. So I feel like they implemented and displayed this ever so excellently. And I love how they also displayed her husband counseling and supporting her through it. Not only her husband, but Quentin, someone who we were introduced to as a playboy, someone who we were introduced to as fuckless, essentially. Very nonchalant, very stoic and sarcastic and all of that. And even though he still has some of those consistent traits of being lighthearted, essentially, he still is being very deep and supportive in this deep ass moment, which is low-key, high-key a juxtaposition in itself, because Shelby is someone who, as she was initially presented and as we've seen her grow, she's someone that people of all different walks of life would look at and see as shallow. But in actuality, she is very much so a deep, complex character and persona. And that's what Quentin reminds her of, that she is more than what she's given herself credit for. She's capable of more than what she's given herself credit for and what she's been given credit for. She is Shelby. And a consistent characteristic of Shelby is being able to use what she got to get what she wants, being adaptable, being versatile, being able to adjust to whatever environment she is in and use whatever she has at the time, or whatever she has in general, to make the most of the situation and capitalize off of it. And that is a parallel that she has with Harper. Harper, just, I would say he has it, but he's not as confident in it. And I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of a light-skin privilege thing. A part of the light-skin struggle and privilege is that a lot of people don't accept you, but at the same time, a lot of people do accept you, and you're trying to figure out how to keep your morals and your values and use what you got to get what you want all at the same time, which is a general struggle. It just hits different for every walk of life. And I mention it specifically as it concerns Shelby because I can relate specifically as a light-skinned, what people would call ambiguous black woman. It's certain things you can do in certain areas and get away with it, and it's certain things that you can't do in certain areas and get away with it. And it's just different nuances and different standards and stipulations that come with it. And let me be clear in saying that it in no way compares to the struggle of a woman like Jordan, i.e. dark-skinned women, because they have even more layers and even more moving the goalposts as standards stacked on top of it. But I say all that to say, it is a very good depiction of the light-skin struggle. Because just because you light-skinned don't mean you're going to be successful. Granted, you may get certain opportunities because you are light-skinned, but it don't mean that you're going to have the longevity effect or the longevity consistency of getting those opportunities. You have to have the talent and the wisdom and the wherewithal to balance it out and to navigate through it. And I feel like that's the enlightenment that was surrounding Shelby and surrounding people who can relate to Shelby. It's not just how you look, the physicality of everything. It's about what you can bring to the table from the roots of your personality, your character, your spirit. And what Shelby has, beyond being irritating, ratchet, and crazy, she is strikingly intelligent and multifaceted and talented and beautiful. She has so much more that she brings to the table other than her physicality. And it took her to go through that particular experience and to have the type of husband that she had to bring it to her attention and to really not only allow her to do what she does, but allow her to capitalize off doing what she does. And that's using what she got to get what she wants. Okay, now I ain't gonna lie, I'm finna blow through these last couple of scenes because there ain't really too much. And I want to go ahead and get this posted because I literally have been recording for this episode for over a month at this point. Okay, so let's get into it. So we get into the next scene. with Lance, and he got the television playing. Of course, it's on the Sports Network, and you got Stephen A. Smith up there running his trap, and you know him and Stephen A. Smith then already got into it. Apparently, he choked him out and all this, that, and the third. Not to mention, while Stephen A. Smith is commentating on this new hot draft pick, Lance is looking on, and also Stephen A. Smith is shading your boy. Lance ain't taking it too kindly, but we gonna hold that thought. So we pick up with From the Culture, and we can immediately see the changes being implemented by and from Shelby by way of Jordan as well. Okay, so this is the plan of the episode, but it is also the executives and such watching back the episode and doing the numbers, doing the ratings, looking at the reviews and things of that nature. And Shelby, in this particular presentation of this episode, showing her new evolution and change and whatnot, she brought it, honey. She brought it. She successfully figured out how to integrate both and all of herself. She was still sassy. She was still direct, snap fire, you know what I'm saying? A little spicy, but she also kept it cute and intellectual and proper, formal, and professional. Okay, she was dropping all the stats, all the numbers, okay, schooling your girls and showing the world that she is more capable than just being the bimbo bombshell fetish, you know, or, you know, imagery, or, you know, representation, whatever, what have you, that she was given before. She is showing more growth. Okay, boom. And we get the official word from the executives and such, and they are feeling it, of course, because the numbers are right, because Shelby and Jordan came together and got it right. Okay, so success. Shelby gonna stay on the show. Jordan gonna keep her job. Everybody is happy. And Shelby also pops up on Jordan, as she ever so creepily does, okay, in the midst of Jordan trying to call her to give her the news. And baby, either Jordan them security is weak, or Shelby is really crazy, because apparently she got up there like, how, okay? So Jordan, of course, gives her the news, and they do their happy dance, and all this, that, and the third. And Shelby is like, okay, boom, pow, shakalaka, mission accomplished. I need a raise. I need a this. I need a that. We got to upgrade everything. Everything. And Jordan is on board. I love their friendship. I love their friendship. So next we get a bit of a reconciliation scene with why am I spacing on this? Like Robin. With Robin and Harper. But it starts off with Robin alone in a room. Me and you. But not it starts off with Robin alone in the room. She done came across some of Harper's work, and she is reading it, and we get more indication and clarification that Harper's talent is something that really woos Robin. His way with words and all of that. And the piece of text that she comes across is essentially seems to be written about this woman that he feels a deep passion for. So much so, and this is like from my perspective, from what I can remember of the words, but seemingly that he is willing to experience fear for. Loves her so much that he is willing to experience fear for her. And so with consuming that, Robin feels like it's about her. And I feel like that's partially accurate. I also feel like Harper merges the identities and aspects of both Robin and Jordan together whenever he's writing about certain women that he's passionate about in his work. I also feel like it's also kind of lame that this is what kind of won Robin over for the moment. And I'll explain that in a sec. So Harper walks in. He's about to say something else to her, but he realizes that she's found his piece of work. And she says to him, you know, when you're talking like this and you're writing things like this, I can listen to it forever. Or, you know, it gives her hope and all this other crap. And I just feel like that's very superficial, contradicting, and hypocritical of her. Because you say that he's like selfish and self-centered and egotistical and superficial and self-serving and things of that nature, but I'm seeing the same things implemented by Robin, because it seems as though you only want to favor what he's doing when he's doing something that favors you or that you approve of. And it's like when you're in a relationship with somebody, they're not going to always do only what you approve of. So not only is that superficial, but it's also quite controlling. And I feel like this also shows her insecurity and her sense of self-worth, because she's constantly, I feel like she's still in that mindset of feeling like second place, second choice, second fiddle, because she still feels like him constantly seeking for something quote unquote better is reflective and symbolic of him wanting better than her, or wanting Jordan, and she feels like Jordan is better than her. And I do understand why she feels that way, and Harper definitely contributed to those feelings by the way that he handled their relationship and the way that he conducted himself in the first movie, okay, with Jordan, and the way he tends to conduct himself with Jordan. But it's just also like, sir, you got to make the decision to feel confident and whole in yourself, regardless of what's going on or regardless of what somebody else think. You just got to, bro, because if you don't, it's gonna be real hard to find somebody else that do. And it's been decades at this point, and she still doesn't feel solid in her position and her placement with him. And it's just like, shit'll get off the pot. You know what I'm saying? You know what it is at this point. You gonna do it or you ain't. We'll talk about, you know, how that turns out when we get there. But yeah. And so she tells him that now she is agreeable to move into the new spot with him. And it's based off of her reading that, and I just feel like that's lame, because you had your heels dug in hard AF about not wanting to move, judging him, insulting him, and criticizing him about his aspirations and his desires and his new goals and ideas and all of that. Like, you was just going so hard. And his reaction to the whole her getting arrested and having a baby with her doing a protest thing, that wasn't enough to show you that he genuinely cared about you and the baby. But his creative writing is what flipped all that. And I just feel like that's quite weak. I just feel like that's weak, like, for real. And I just feel like it also shows her dishonesty, specifically, whereas the pinpoints that she was originally stating that were her issue concerning the move and concerning his new aspirations and all of that, I feel like her flipping just like that off reading that text shows that that's not what the issue really was. That one, she just wants some attention, and two, she has some, I ain't gonna say narcissistic tendencies, but I am gonna say self-centered, egotistical tendencies. And I do feel like she also has jealousy of Harper, and she can't really accept his work unless she approves of it or it has something to do with her at this point. That's just my perspective. But so we get to the next scene, and it's just basically Harper putting his foot down to his agent and letting him know that the last Bumper G series is the last Bumper G series, and then he gonna be moving on to bigger and better things that he said he wanted and is going to do. Period. Okay? That's it. That's all. Moving on. And for the final scene of this episode, we pick up with Jordan and her apprentice assistant, whichever she is, at the bar, letting off a little edge, but at the same time, Jordan is still educating and training, giving her all sorts of gems and advice and things, right? But your girl is looking distracted this time. She usually is all eyes, ears, mouth, and nose to the conversation and information that is coming out of Jordan's mouth. But this time, she is looking all over Jordan's shoulder, and Jordan is like, excuse me, what's not clicking? Is you listening, honey? Because I'm dropping some tangs. And your girl is like, yeah, I hear you, girl, but it's some kangs walking in behind you, child. It is Harper and Quentin entering the scene. Apparently, old girl wanted to surprise Jordan by inviting her homeboys out to celebrate with her for her new success and accomplishment from the culture and Shelby. So they came on out. Quentin is living his happy wife, happy life, light hunty, and Harper is, kind of sitting and sprinkling in his new commitment to his new ideas and inspirations and aspirations, child. And I also am now, I feel a need to want to do a body language decoding video on Taye Diggs's acting for the character Harper, because there are just some things that I noticed. For instance, him having his arms folded at certain moments. I just want to go through and decode what I feel like all of these body language tactics and things like that mean, and where they're coming from, and what his intents are behind them when he uses and implements them for the character. Okay, but yeah, back to the last couple of minutes of this episode, child. So they commiserating and conversating and all this, that, and the third, honey. And Lance pops up on the television in the bar. Talking about he is coming out of retirement. Somehow he is coming out of retirement and he is ready to set the thing off. He did not come to play with you hoes. He came to slay, bitch. He came to slay. And everybody is looking cray. And Jordan is talking about, did I send him the right podcast? Baby, I will be asking the same thing, because what on earth is happening? But that is so like Lance. And that's definitely playing off the real life circumstance of one of them Peyton boys that came out of retirement. Ain't it one of them Peyton boys? I don't know. You can Peyton, Eli, no, Manning. Child, don't get me to trying to quote the football players, honey, because I have them all mixed up. But y'all know who I'm talking about. You can drop it in the comments. But that football player that came out of retirement and he going through a divorce now and all that, it is reminiscent of that. That's essentially the real life inspiration off of Lance's storyline of this sort. Him coming out of retirement like a fool. Like a fool. And it's not to say that, don't nobody want you to play or whatever. You still can't play. It's just that, my dude, you done all that you had to do and made that all that you had to make off of that. And why you want to be where you are now, steady getting beat up, taken down, knocked upside the head, and all that foolery. Okay, you know what I'm saying? You gotta start putting your eggs in some more different baskets, and that's what Jordan was trying to get him to. But he gotta go through his own process, honey, and figure it out for himself. But honey, with all that being said, child, I have milked this cow dry, and I am thoroughly appreciative for the exchange of vibes. And if you're feeling synchronized, please like, share, and subscribe so that you can be one of the first to be back through these queenly quarters for the next time. And be sure to bless my comment section with your questions and conversations. And as always, I bid you all light, love, healing, and liberation. Emphasis on liberation. Mwah.